This segment of Labatt Buffalo Main Event is brought to you by Kaz Electronics, your gadget source with referral rewards.
We're back on Buffalo Main Event, brought to you by Labatt. Our guest today, Jerry Sullivan of the Buffalo News. I'm Brad Ryder, along with Bob Gunn. Of course, this is Bob Gunn.
Who else would it be?
Right, exactly. Jerry Sullivan joins us, and we are now 15 weeks into a 16-week football season, or 15 games, rather. Has this been a good one? Has this been a fun one, 7 and 8?
I've enjoyed it. And at times I've almost felt like I was gushing a little bit. People have accused me of going soft, but I think once the Everett thing happened and the team that I thought would go 2-14 started winning games, they were fun to be around, and it's a really good group. I don't know if you've been in the locker room, but you've heard some of these guys, in interviews. They're nice guys. This character intelligence thing, I think there's something to it.
Well, it's
they
nice.
Still need better players.
Yeah, it's nice to be a nice guy, but I'd rather have a guy that's a jerk that can actually
Like
maybe
you.
stop the run. Stop the run. Right?
Yeah, now they want to get to that. I mean, now game 15, the reality comes and slaps them in the face. 291 yards, the most the Giants have had since Gifford played.
Yeah.
They stopped the bad teams. I think it was your brother who said, they're really good at beating teams that are crappier than them.
Right.
And that's it. But they don't beat teams with winning records. They don't beat teams, and this goes back to when they supposedly had a great offense. If a team showed up with a real offense and a decent quarterback and a running game and committed to it, they melted. And yes, there was a really bad example of that, but really 2 weeks in a row. So if they don't learn to stop the run and can't do it against better teams, they're not going to take the next step.
How much are the injuries a factor, though? Defensively, I didn't think they looked great going into the year, and to be quite honest, I've been surprised by how well they have played defensively despite all these injuries. How much can you expect out of specifically Posluszny, but Kosensen out for the whole year as well? How much better are they next year, barring any moves? Just take this team and be healthy.
I think they could be significantly better, especially if Posluszny is the guy that people want him to be. I'm not sure about that. I didn't watch him a lot at Penn State, and you did probably, but it's the transition to the NFL. Being a middle linebacker, there are questions about his ability to play that position. But he's certainly going to be better than DeGiorgio, I think, who really overachieved. But come the end of the year, he's really worn down. And you look at the guy in the locker room, it's like, you're a middle linebacker in the NFL? So they need more players in the draft and maybe a free agent guy who can help.
Your thoughts on Dick Duran?
I like Duran as a guy. There are things he does that are very important as a coach that he's very good at. Getting guys on the same page, delivering a message. He is a smart guy. When you listen to Whitner, you know you're also listening to Duran. He's kept them together. He keeps them motivated for games, and that's really important. Game day, I'm not so sure sometimes, and I'm waiting to see what will happen if they get better offensive players, and because the offense, as a conservative thing that drives you nuts sometimes, is a reflection of him. But it's just like with Marcia Broder. He was conservative till he got great players. Will he be able to change his style and adjust it so he can get the most out of those players? We'll see.
Do you have to be conservative when Trent Edwards is your quarterback, specifically as a rookie? I think the best approach, if you are going that route with a rookie quarterback, is kind of tone things down and take it step by step. It's almost like they're looking at next year already.
There's no question, I think, that they felt that's the way they had to play to win games. And they did win, 6 out of 8 at one point. I think that's the way they felt they had to be with your boy Lossman, because they didn't trust him. Oh, yeah. and that's what stunned people to start of the year. And I think that was a mistake, to act like you're a playoff team when you're sort of trying to find out if Lossman can play. And people were critical of that for a good reason. If he's going to be a guy who throws the ball down the field and you're going to open it up, let's see it and let him fail. And they never really let him until later in the year. But as far as Edwards, they did what they needed to do with him. But I think he's good enough down the road to run an offense that's much more dynamic.
But isn't that maybe just their philosophy? Because wasn't it last year against Indianapolis with Lossman? They were trying to, win games, pull it out in the fourth quarter. Let's just stay close. It seems like that doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It seems to me like that's their philosophy.
Yeah, and I think was that before that he broke out against Houston. I don't know, but yes, I killed him that day. They ran like 5 draw plays on 3rd and 10 that day. It was clear that they just were trying not to lose the game. And yes, that there are questions about Duran that way. I think he believes his defense, the way they play, will create turnovers, and they just have to be good on offense. He's never had a dynamic quarterback going back to the Bears, and those questions are there on him. Game day decisions, and does he have a philosophy that can succeed beyond this, just trying to be conservative and not lose games? You don't win the Super Bowl that way. Look at the teams that are competing for
Well,
it.
you don't lose, you win, though, unless you tie, and nobody ties. I'm just saying. Speaking of not losing, the Sabres haven't been losing much at all lately, and they're starting to look like a real contender. We talked about it earlier. They're borderline second place. They're borderline 10th place. What are we looking at in this team that really is capable of pulling off these winning streaks?
If they hadn't come from where they had, the excitement would be incredible, and for a lot of fans, I'm sure it is, because this team is coming on and kind of finding itself. And I think they had problems after losing Drury and Briere in terms of their identity and who they were, and I think they seemed uneasy. And now I think this was very significant, the 2 games against Philly, coming from behind. And I asked Briere, I said, didn't that kind of seem like old times? And he smiled, and it almost seemed like he missed it, being part of that. So what I'm saying is, though, while I still have questions about their ability to win against physical teams in the playoffs, that they're kind of realizing they can be what that team was in terms of being dynamic, coming from behind, and using their skill to full advantage while playing defense. And I think they could be a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Sully, you're a big baseball fan. Roger Clemens came out, said he never took steroids on his website. Question is, can Roger Clemens say anything that will convince you that he didn't take steroids?
No. I mean, it's the same with Bonds, really. I mean, there's nothing.
Same with everybody in baseball, isn't it? Can you believe anybody?
No, and it's really
We tried to
tough
defend Brian Roberts. He confessed.
Yeah.
I like to believe A-Rod.
Sure. I'd like to not believe A-Rod.
My kid loves A-Rod, but I'm a baseball
Canseco says
lover.
A-Rod.
It really bothers me, and sometimes I just want to put it all aside so I can enjoy the aspects of the game that I love. I mean, I love to watch a baseball game, and Brad knows this, and in 5 minutes I see a play and say, see, this is a great sport. There is action. It's better than the NFL. And now all this stuff kind of really compromises it for me. I hate Clemens. I mean, I've hated him since he was a jerk with the Red Sox. And I've always...
Well, if you've hated him since he was a jerk, you've been hating him for a while.
I think it was when he was like 12. And Bonds, too. See, my dislike for these guys goes beyond the steroid thing. That I think they're jerks as people. I thought Bonds was one of the most insincere guys I've ever dealt with in sports, and Clemens is right there. And then you think, well, maybe it's not a coincidence that they were the big steroid users, because I think their behavior becomes a reflection of what they're doing. I mean, the thing with, I covered that World Series with the broken bat. Piazza said he's crazy. And I think what Piazza was really saying was, guys, what do you think he's on?
Yeah, exactly. Jerry Sullivan, our guest. It's Buffalo Main Event, brought to you by Labatt. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up with our commentary. Again, it is Labatt, Buffalo Main Event.
It's so normal to feel this overwhelming pressure to just have to do it all. We understand what that's like. Bristol Home and Bristol Village and any other residence that's out there will tell you we see it every day in and day out. Families come in, and usually it's at that point where they say, we just don't know what to do anymore. So think about it, don't feel as though you're alone, and ask for help. Early intervention is key. Planning ahead is key.
Bristol Home and Bristol Village, assisted living where family matters.